begun to record this presentation. We will be providing this recording for future viewing on our webpage. And if you're interested in receiving it later, you can email us and we will provide you the link. You will also notice that there's captions available. If you can go to the ellipsis and find closed captions, or you might see the closed captions icon at the bottom of your screen, and you can select the subtitles. I will provide a link here on the chat box. Si ustedes hablan español y quieren los subtítulos en español, he puesto un URL, una página aquí en el chat. Déjenme nada más esperar que nadie más comente por un momento. Ahí esa página lo pueden abrir y van a ver los subtítulos en español por todo este evento. If you would like the materials for this presentation, you can go to our webpage, wfsolutions.org, and go to our events calendar. We have put the PowerPoint there and the agenda for today. If you have any questions, you can email us at navigators@wfsolutions.org. Now I'll hand it over to my counterpart, Jeanette Escalera.
Thank you, Ricky. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jeanette Escalera, and I am also a student HireAbility Navigator with Workforce Solutions. So just a little more information about our transition fair today. It's going to run for approximately 2 hours. Today, we do have 5 different speakers, different organizations that will be speaking on transitioning into the workforce, post-secondary education, and of course, the community as well. Every organization will be speaking for about 15 minutes, and then after their presentation, they will have about 5 minutes to answer any questions that you may have. We do ask that you do refer any questions that you may have to the chat box, and at the very end, they will be answered. If for whatever reason our presenter is unable to answer your questions during the allotted time frame, they will be able to go back into the chat box to answer your questions. So once again, we would like to know who is joining us today. We do see that we do have quite a bit of participants on our call today. So we would like to see if you all can tell us who you are. So I'm going to release a poll. And if you can just let us know who you are. I'll give you guys about a minute or so. If you have not answered yet, if you can just let us know who you are. Give you all a couple more seconds before I end the poll. All right, I'm going to be ending the poll right now, and I will be sharing the results. So we do have some students, parents, thank you all so much for joining. We hope that you're able to take some valuable information with you. Educators, please share whatever information you hear today. Thank you, VR, and all of our other. Thank you all so much for being here today. So at this time, we will begin with our first presenter. I would like to welcome Ms. Vela, Community Liaison for Workforce Solutions. Welcome, Mere.
You want to take the poll down? I think it's still showing up on the screen.
So everyone should have access to remove the poll.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, you can.
Okay, perfect. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Meadow Vela with Workforce Solutions. How's everybody doing? Okay, well, we're gonna go ahead and go over the services. If anybody has any questions, my colleague will be going over the questions. His name is Michael Trejo. Our hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and we are in Hidalgo, Star, and Willacy County. And although our Workforce Solutions offices are closed to the public due to the current COVID-19 pandemic, my colleagues and I are here to assist you. We are here to serve the public in Hidalgo, Star, and Willacy County. We're available virtually, online, by phone, and I will be sharing the links and the phone numbers where you can reach us in case you have any additional questions. We're providing the remote methods such as for all of our customers and employers via phone, email, live chats. This is the link where you can actually log on online and one of our representatives can answer your questions online. If you feel comfortable calling us, the phone number is available on there as well. If you do need to reach out to our centers, on the next, here's the contact information where you can reach us either by email or by phone. The centers will be directing you to the next customer service representative that's available. If you need to send documents to us, password protect them, and the email addresses are available online and on this link right here. Now, as I did mention, our normal business, we are able to offer the resource room, but right now our offices are closed. We're still offering our training opportunities, financial aid, career counseling by phone, online. We're still working with individuals within the community to be able to assist them on providing all of the services that are available. As far as for childcare assistance, right now we do have a wait list, but we do actually have availability for essential workers. For if you feel that you may qualify, you can download the application online at our webpage. Now, as far as for job search, our website is available 24 hours a day. It's at no cost, 7 days a week. We can match you to the best opportunities that are out there throughout Hidalgo, Star, and Willacy County. If you need assistance on setting up the webpage itself, you can actually call one of our centers. But we do recommend that you try your best to go online because it is very it gives you like all the steps in order. It gives you the information for the skills, abilities, education, and other factors as well. And we can actually help you over the phone or also by our chat if you do have additional questions regarding our work in Texas. Now, although we are being affected with the situation that's going on, our employment opportunities are very similar to what we're doing today. We're actually going to be having a job fair coming up on Thursday. It's a virtual job fair. It's similar to the session that we're doing right now. We can go to the next slide. This is an example for the job fair that we actually had last week. Our up-to-date one for this coming Thursday is actually on our website, the WF Solutions page. And it's similar to this. It gives you the information on the jobs that we're going to be having. And is the Zoom, it is free, so you can download it on your phones, on your laptops, and our staff is there to answer your questions. Similar to what we're doing right now, just a little bit, we have individuals that can guide you to be able to give you more details on the opportunities that the employers are doing. And also employers will be there available to answer any questions that you may have as well. Make sure that you do sign up on our website, which is on Facebook, RGV Operation Get Hired. The link is right here on the bottom. We regularly share our job openings, hiring events, job fairs in the Rio Grande Valley. We also share services, opportunities, resources, anything to help the community to be able to access either education or employment opportunities that are available to the Valley. Now, the WIOA program, this program right here is for the individuals who are already graduating. So if you have a high school diploma, GED, and are wanting to continue your education, we do have more than 100 trainings available. Some of the trainings that we are offering assistance is with associates in nursing, pharmacy technician, truck driver, electrician. And these are just some of the trainings. You can always find additional trainings that are available through us online. You can go through the TWC webpage or also the WFS page, which are available at the beginning, and they'll also be available towards the end. There is some requirements, which I'll go into more detail in just a moment. Now, a great program that we do have available right now is our E3 program, which is Empower, Educate, and Employ. And this program is targeting individuals for 18 to 24 who are interested in the healthcare, public safety, education, retail, and hospitality. If you already have a career path and you already wanting to know what you're wanting to get into, or a lot of us are graduating from high school with some kind of certification in the medical field, in the education, but you're not able to get that work experience. With this particular program, we are able to help you get the experience that you need to become successful, all while getting paid. So not only are you learning new skills, you're gaining skills that you're wanting to continue your education in, but you're getting paid. In some instances, you may also qualify for support services, gas, clothing, anything to help you become successful. If you want to take that next step, if you come out with a CNA and you're wanting to take the next step for the LVN program or the RN program, we have great opportunities to help you get that education assistance for you at no cost for those that do qualify. In this information you'll have here for each one of our centers, we do have 5 youth service representatives that can help you, or you can simply call one of the nearest centers towards you. Now, the requirements for both the adult and for the youth program, there is income requirements of up to 6 months that we do require. Your birth certificate, social security card, state ID, driver's license, proof of your high school diploma. One of the programs that we do have is individuals who are from 16 to 24. For that one, you would just need your transcript for those of you that feel that you may qualify. And you must be registered on our website at workintexas.com. As I did mention to you, right now with everything that's going out, our offices are currently closed, so you do need to contact your nearest workforce center prior to attending. And our general orientations are offered 9 a.m. and 1:30, Tuesday through Friday. And we'll be able to also guide you. If it is available online, one of our career counselors will be able to direct you to the webpage if needed. Now, these are the 5 locations for our centers and also the phone numbers. Once we do set up the appointment for you to visit with one of our counselors, then at this point, this is where you'll be able to visit one of the centers or call the 1-877 number for more details. Now, for childcare services, as I did mention, currently we do have a wait list for the childcare services, but if you are considered a essential employee, what we will do is we will go ahead and assess the case, since it is a case-by-case basis, and then if you are eligible or considered an essential worker, one of our childcare specialists will then at that point email you the application for childcare services or provide you the link so that you can download it online for those that do qualify. And if you ever do find employment, we do ask that you do notify us, whether it's online, by phone, or if you have communication with one of our customer service representatives. We do ask that you do let us know as soon as possible. And this is so that we can maintain your resume up to date at all times through the Work in Texas webpage. Now, the equal opportunity is the law, and if you ever feel that you are being discriminated by an employer or that you feel that you're not getting the proper assistance that you need, you can always call 711 or the 1-800 number that's available online. Or if you feel you want to speak to someone, again, you can visit one of our 5 locations and we'll be more than happy to direct you and assist you. And again, this is if you ever feel discriminated by an employer. And if you have any questions, I am available, and my colleague Michael Trejo, and my contact information will also be available. So in case you feel more comfortable emailing me or calling me, feel free to answer and to ask any questions, as we are available to help you and be able to meet your needs. And here is my contact information. This is my cell phone and my email address. Feel free to email me, call me, or be able to also visit the webpage, which is the wfsolutions.org. And again, follow us on Facebook for all the up-to-date job fairs that we do have available.
Thank you, Mere. So I have not seen any questions
Okay.
at the chat box. If any of you have any questions for Mere and about Workforce Solutions, please have the opportunity to put any questions in the chat box at this moment. Okay, so there's a question. What resources are there for high school students?
For the high school students, it would be the 18 to 24. If you have a high school diploma, we can help you get the work experience with one of our youth counselors. The requirements would fall the same. If you do want to go ahead and forward your email to Ricky or Jeanette, we can go ahead and definitely send you the flyer directly, and also the instructions. It's actually one of the ones that we did go ahead and put on the website as well.
Perfect. So the following question was how can they begin applying? So you did mention 18, correct?
Well, we do have 2 programs. If they are in school, it is 16 to 24. And if they are out of school use at any time, as long as they have a high school diploma or GED, just depending the programming that they're wanting to get their work experience in. Great.
So there's some participants here that have disabilities. So they're asking if Workforce Solutions provides accommodations, per se an interpreter.
If it is available, if anyone at any time does need an interpreter, as long as we are advised within 24 hours, we do have interpreters that can be provided.
Okay, somebody did ask about CO, and CO is canceled this year, but we're hoping to resume that next year. Any summer work and earn opportunities this year?
Well, we always have the job opportunities available through Work in Texas, and we do have job fairs that are going to be taking place. Normally, we've been doing them on Thursdays, so we can always have those individuals that are interested in doing their job searches visit the webpage on Facebook, get the up-to-date job opportunities, and you can always tailor the Work in Texas webpage to be able to look at the job opportunities that you're wanting to do. So if you want AM, PM, or just weekends, you can actually put that on your Work in Texas, and it will match you to jobs based on the time frame that you're looking for.
Okay, somebody asked if the student needs to be registered with DARS, which is now Texas Workforce Vocational Rehab Services.
For any services that are offered through Workforce, as long as you're registered through workintexas.com, that is one of the main requirements.
Yes, so you're able to receive services from both agencies. You don't need to be registered in both to receive from one or the other. Does Workforce offer certificates for employment to high school students?
I'm not sure, like, what does you mean?
I'm just reading the question. So there is target occupations available We can provide that guidance, but we do not offer certificates directly. The following question says, will workforce offices be open anytime soon?
As of right now, we are working remotely over the phone and online. As soon as it is open to the public, we will let all of our customers know. Again, we do ask that you do follow us on Facebook. That would be one of the main areas where it would be able to be informed to everyone right away.
Great. So somebody here is asking if Cameron County has a different website.
Yes, they do. It's actually the same Work in Texas webpage, but they do follow different guidelines when it comes to the WIOA programs. Their requirements may be a little bit different, so we always ask them to call the Cameron County.
Great. So we have a question that asks, any employers from the virtual job fair work with individuals with disabilities?
All of our employers are able to work with individuals as long as, you know, depending on the type of work that individuals are looking for. If the individual wants to disclose the disability to the employer, that's at the employer and the customer's discretion. But we always recommend and advise all of our customers to apply for the opportunities, because we won't know unless you actually take that step or that plunge to be able to look at the opportunities that are out there.
Great. And another question asks, what type of work opportunities do you try to connect the community with?
Well, we actually offer opportunities from all areas. And if you do visit our webpage at Work in Texas, we have anywhere from janitors, customer service, office clerks, all the way to executive positions. Just really depends on the qualifications and the skills that individuals are actually looking for. But we have all sorts of job opportunities available through Work in Texas throughout the Valley. Also, we have individuals who are actually going to be leaving the Valley after they graduate. So you can also tailor the Work in Texas to be able to look for work outside of the Rio Grande Valley as well.
Perfect. So that seems to be all the questions for Workforce Solutions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Meadow.
So much, Meadow. So now we will go on to our second presenter or second organization, and they are Ms. Leanne Godinez and Gabriela Martinez, both supervisors for the Lower Rio Grande Management Unit with Vocational Texas Workforce Solutions Vocational Rehabilitation Services.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for the invitation. We're very happy to be here. We wanted to thank every one of you joining us today and taking the time to hear this information. We also wanted to thank the Workforce Solutions and Region 1 for the invitation. My name is Gabriela Martinez. I'm a supervisor with the Texas Workforce Solutions Vocational Rehabilitation Services Program. And myself and Ms. Leanne Godinez, who will present herself shortly before her presentation, are very excited to be here to share information about our program and how it would benefit our mutual customer, which is our students with disabilities. Now, before I get started, I do want to let you know that we are officially open virtually to take your applications and referrals, despite our facilities being closed due to COVID-19. We want to encourage each and every one of you, students, parents, and educators, and others who are currently joining us, to please send in your referrals to your local VR office so we can have our counselors reach out and start transition services with the students who are most likely highly in need now that schools are also virtual at all levels, and they may potentially need our services more than ever. Now, before the end of the presentation, you will be provided with contact information at the field level, the regional level, and the state level. So you'll have enough contact numbers to be able to get your referrals into our virtual doors. Okay, so I hope we can get some referrals after this presentation. And just like our presenter, Mr. Ricky had mentioned, please enter your questions into the chat box. We will gladly answer them after our presentation. That's in the event through our presentation those questions have not been answered. Okay, so vocational rehabilitation services. So the purpose of our program is to help individuals with disabilities of all ages to be able to obtain, maintain, and advance in employment that's consistent to their individual strengths, interests, abilities, and aptitudes. Now, our services are eligibility based on a criteria, and they are definitely tailored to the individual. And the next slide will have that information for eligibility, so we'll all know what we're talking about. Our services are not intended to be emergency services, and they are not time limited. However, we definitely do not want to prolong a vocational rehab case simply because we want to. You know, we want to make sure that it is time driven in the process or towards that individual in itself. We also have our vocational rehabilitation counselors who either arrange, provide, or purchase the services with a high consideration for the individual's informed choice. Okay. The next slide in regards to our eligibility criteria, which applies to all the individuals with disability walking through our doors, and it applies to all ages. So we have 4 areas in which we focus. Our vocational rehab counselors are tasked to find that these 4 criteria are simultaneously in existence for the customer applying to be determined eligible. Now, the first criteria is identifying that both a physical or a mental impairment exists, and this is established, that presence is established with medical records from either medical providers or mental health providers, or even our school settings. So our LSSP and or our diagnosticians who evaluate our students are able to provide through those records and for us to establish presence of the disability. We also look, after the disability has been established, the impairment that constitutes towards the employment outcome. So we look at functional limitations in regards to each individual student, and we could globally look at, for example, either the work demands, and if they're able to meet them through work skills, maybe work tolerance, are they able to physically tolerate a full work shift or a partial work shift, and is that impacted by the disability? Their mobility, their communication, interpersonal skills. That also includes either self-direction or self-care. So we meticulously look individually to the customer, which disability they have and how that impacts this specific employment outcome. We also look at specific services that are required for that individual to either prepare, enter, engage in, or advance in competitive integrated employment. It must be consistent to the individual's 8 areas in which we focus, which is their strengths, their resources, their priorities, their concerns, their abilities, their capabilities, their interests, and of course their informed choice. These areas are very valuable for us because it yields at the very beginning the foundation to a successful case if the customer is a high active participant from the very beginning. The 4th criteria is that the counselor must establish that the student or the customer can reach employment outcome unless pre-eligibility trial work experiences demonstrate by clear and convincing evidence that the customer cannot reach employment outcome because of the severity of their disability. So this in itself is also provided by the vocational rehab department in the essence of if the disability is at the beginning seen as more significant or severe and can't reach employment outcome, within our office, we provide pre-eligibility trial work experiences, also arranged, provided, and purchased. So we ourselves can find either clear convincing evidence that they can't work, or through those services found that they were eventually able to lead to employment outcome. And then move the case into the vocational rehab process, meaning they're eligible and then go into a plan. Now, like I noted at the beginning, all 4 criteria must be present for a person to be determined eligible for our services. And one of the items that's probably sometimes missed by individuals working with us is that the eligibility criteria can be assessed and redetermined through the life of the case. There may be cases where the individual qualified at the beginning of their application process, and then through the life of the case somehow didn't meet the criteria any longer. One of the areas that's usually asked from time to time is if an individual's income has anything to do with them qualifying for our services. And the answer is no. The eligibility criteria is only the 4 that you see on your screen today. Income has nothing to do, it does not play a role in whether a person qualifies or not for a vocational rehab services. However, because of the requirements, both federal and state requirements to report income, it is asked for the student, the parents, or the customer, the adult customer, to show proof of income, as it does play a role when it comes to service delivery as the case goes on. Slide number 3, transition services. So specifically for the viewers of today, our transition services are specifically to provide assistance to the students so they can move in a smooth transition from high school to successful work and independent living. Now, we definitely value, and our success also depends highly on our partners, and in this case would be our schools. That strong partnership yields more success when it comes to working one-on-one with our counselors. And our services, the transition services, really don't start until that referral comes from the school and or the parent and or the student that may call our office while they're attending the high school setting. And it is done before and in preparation before their exit. After the person does leave high school, vocational services do continue, and they are available for them if necessary and as needed per customer. Now, transition services is just a subset of a larger program, which is our vocational rehab services. This transition services, they provide for students ages 14 to 22. And in most of the cases, our services that are provided fall into 5 categories, with pre-employment transition services, which, as you can see on your screen, is career exploration, work-based learning, counseling on post-secondary opportunities, job readiness, and self-advocacy. Now, within these 5, some of the examples, and you might have heard them before, would be like vocational adjustment training, our summer earn and learn work opportunities for our youth, our STEM camps that we collaborate closely with South Texas College. We've had roundup days at the local universities before COVID, so counseling opportunities can occur for post-secondary education, and that's assisting them on a one-to-one basis to either apply for the college, select a degree plan, register for classes, complete financial aid applications, and of course, we also have our year-round work experiences. Now, COVID has impacted some of our face-to-face direct training opportunities, but we still have some virtual opportunities in which our students can currently participate in. So we definitely encourage, if your son, your daughter, you the student, and or educators have any referrals for us through this pandemic, please feel free. We encourage you to send them our way so we can start serving those students. Our next slide is who serves our transition population. So our vocational rehabilitation counselors, and the acronym that is used is TVRCs, that's for Transition Vocational Rehab Counselor. They are the ones who are assigned to very specific schools in their areas, and they spend most of the time at those school campuses. So let me give you an example. If a transition specialist has 5 schools, most likely Monday through Friday, she's at one school dedicating the time to the staff and to the students, meeting the students at the school, the parents at the campus, to also facilitate their ability to participate in the services without having to miss school. Our other general vocational rehab counselors, our VRCs, they cover general caseloads that include the adult populations, and they do have some high school assignments, and there are liaisons to those schools. So our general vocational rehab counselors do not spend most of the time on campus, but rather they either communicate virtually with the school staff, and or maybe once or twice a year be able to go into the campuses, gather the information and the referrals, and then be able to reach the customer and or the parents from our offices. So the majority of our schools have counselors that are assigned to the schools. And of course, we definitely encourage you to reach out to our regional transition specialist for Region 6 is Ms. Mayra Gutierrez, who will definitely give you information on which counselor is assigned to your school, or if your school has not had an assigned counselor, she will definitely facilitate that information over to the field office so we can get a counselor assigned if your school does not have one already. And I want to thank you for your time, and I'm going to pass this on to Ms. Leanne Godinez.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Leanne Godinez, and I'm the other vocational rehab supervisor here in McAllen. It's an honor to be with all of you today. I'm going to continue with the next slide about the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. We call it WIOA, and it's a federal law that was passed in 2014. Actually, WIOA is part of the reason that we're all here today, because it's incorporated the Vocational Rehab Agency under Workforce Solutions, which we have found to be an extremely beneficial partnership. So one of the things the federal government really wanted to do with WIOA was to give students more opportunities in employment and also post-secondary opportunities when they were leaving high school. Because honestly, before WIOA, we just weren't seeing that. So we're seeing a lot more opportunities with our services and the services that we're doing in our partnerships as well. Our emphasis is transition and youth services throughout the WIOA and the vocational rehab process. In regards to the next slide on Title V, it changed our agency specifically because we were asked to spend 15% of our federal funds on what we call pre-employment transition services. So these are the services that Gabby mentioned before that really have to do with preparing a student for after high school. Again, being employment or education related. And they focus on two areas primarily: job readiness and independent living. And we have a full array of services, like Gabby mentioned: the STEM camps, the summer jobs, the work experience services, the work readiness skills, vocational adjustment training. It could be individual pre-ETS camps on our different pre-employment transition services categories. So we have a lot of services to provide. And again, some of those services are available still virtually. As part of the WIOA, on the next slide, we were able to create a new status within the VR program. This has allowed us to serve a lot more students than we had before. It's a status that allows us to set somebody up with something that we call potentially eligible, and they're set up in a status that's really prior to the entire vocational rehab process. So for any of you that have ever been involved with a vocational rehab application, it could take about 45 minutes, and we ask a lot of information. With potentially eligible, we make that process much smoother. And basically, there's a few criteria. They have to be eligible for and be considered a student with a disability. So they must meet the age criteria, which is 14 to 22. And if they're seniors, they must be continuing with post-secondary education. So basically, you have to be in school to be considered pre-ETS and or potentially eligible. And this process is not intended to circumvent the VR process. It's really intended to give more students an opportunity to participate in our services, and then also so that we can find out a little bit about them, they can find out a little about us, and we can continue with the VR process from there. All of the pre-ETS services are limited to potentially eligible or pre-ETS students. They're very specific. In order to be potentially eligible, there's a form that must be signed, and then we need some documentation to prove their disability, such as a 504 documentation, an IEP, a letter from the school, or possibly proof of their disability through Social Security. So there's some different ways that we can work with you to set up a potentially eligible student. Now on the next slide on how to get started. Basically, if you're with a school, you know who your assigned VR liaison is. If you do not, then we're going to give you some contact information to reach out. If you are a parent or a student and you would like to apply for services, again, we're going to give you some contact information. Go to the next slide. Our regional transition specialist is Myra Gutierrez, who Gabby mentioned earlier. She is highlighted on the bottom of this slide, and I believe she's participating in this webinar if you'd like to ask her any questions through the chat. And on our next slide, we have our state office transition team. What's important, I think, about this slide is on the very bottom, if you note, there's a PREETS mailbox, vr.preets@twc.state.tx.us. They are always taking information and/or recommendations from the public or the schools on how we can improve PREETS services. So I highly recommend you use that PREETS mailbox and they will respond. Our next slide is just general contact information about TWC. And on the following slide, we have set up contact information for all the units that cover all the counties in the Region 1 area. So we have the Cameron County Management Unit that serves Cameron County, and their information is on the top left. We have Golden Crescent Coastal Bend Management Unit. They serve not only Brooks County, but also Jim Hogg County. They're on the bottom left. On the top right is our unit, and we serve Hidalgo, Starr, and Willacy County. And on the bottom right is South Texas Middle Rio Management Unit, and they serve Webb and Zapata County, excuse me. So we have a lot of contact information. This information is available in the PowerPoint that will be shared, or you can take a screenshot of this particular page, and then you know who to contact in your specific area. And then finally, some information about our federal funding, and we are available for questions if you have any.
Great, thank you, Leanne and Gabby. As I mentioned, we will be accepting questions at this time for vocational rehab services.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys. If anyone has any further questions for Workforce Solutions Vocational Rehabilitation Services, feel free to enter those questions into the chat box, and they will be able to answer those throughout this event. So our next presenter is Ms. Perla Leo, Coordinator of Student Disability Services from South Texas College. Welcome, Perla.
Hi, thank you, Jeanette. So this is Perla Leo. I'm the coordinator for Student Disability Services with South Texas College. I wanted to thank Texas Workforce for arranging this transition fair and for everyone else for attending this fair to gain information about our services. So I'll try to cover what I can. I know we have 15 minutes. I guess just first thing you're looking at right now, those are our physical campuses. Due to the coronavirus situation, we are fully online for the summer. So all our classes for the summer will be virtual for South Texas College. And however, we do continue to assist our students with student disability services, counseling, and any other support services our students need. You can visit our website. There is a coronavirus update at the very top of our main website, and that is where you can get somebody to contact you. You'll submit your name, your phone number. Somebody will call you with any questions that you have to assist you. And we are very limited on an appointment basis, only for emergency situations that really have to be done in person, but otherwise we are providing our services virtually to our students. So thank you for being here. So the first thing that I do want to talk about is the skill of self-advocacy for students transitioning from high school to college. It is a very important skill to focus on, right, during this transition of graduating high school. What is college going to look like for me as a student with a disability? So you know, before in high school, your school is tasked with identifying you, your teachers, parents advocate for you, right, as a student. So in college, the student does have to be the one to self-identify to the disability office. So that is a process here at South Texas College. Like most colleges, universities, you have to identify yourself to our department. The primary responsibility to self-advocate and arrange your accommodations falls on the student. So you do have to let us know what is it that you're going to be needing for classroom accommodations, and we're here to help you. You have to initiate contact with us. We're not able to, you know, look for you if you're struggling in classes, things like that. We suggest you talk to your instructors, so that way their instructor can redirect you, refer you to our department. So we do sometimes get referrals that way too. But we're here to assist you. If you visit our website, there is information on there about our process, and I'll try to touch on that as well today. So going into what our program consists of, student disability services, and what our office does, we do coordinate appropriate and reasonable accommodations. Our goal is to help each of our students reach their goals here on campus, participate in campus life and in different events, and make sure you complete your program successfully. So that's what we do here at our office. We do this by meeting with students one-on-one. We review the documentation they provide to us. We complete intake interviews to get to know our students, so we can make the best determination on appropriate and reasonable accommodations for the classrooms. You know, one accommodation could be different in one classroom versus another classroom, just depending if it's hands-on, is it virtual, things like that. Once we make those decisions, we provide a memo of accommodations to the student to present to their instructor. So that way the instructor can know how to accommodate you as a student. In the next slide, it says who qualifies. So we follow the ADA definition of a person with a disability, which is if you have a physical or mental impairment that limits one or more major life activity, has a record or history of an impairment, is regarded as having such an impairment. So obviously for being an institution of higher education, one of the major populations that we service is when there's an impairment to learning, because that's what our students come and do here at the college. So that is one of our bigger populations: students with learning disabilities, students with developmental disabilities, just a variety, but that's what we're here for, to service you. So how do you request our services? So obviously what you see on the screen is the paper version of our request for student disability services. So this request is now virtual and available online at our student portal. And so you see there the student portal login is a blue button on our counseling and disability website, so feel free to check that out. Once you have your credentials to log in as a student at South Texas College, you should be able to log into that portal and submit your request for student disability services. But the actual process starts with you applying to the college, and you have to go through the standard admission process like any other student, and then you do register for courses first. And after you've registered for courses is when you can complete the student disability services request form, and then you start working with a counselor one-on-one to discuss what accommodations you're requesting, what is going to get approved for you, things like that. We do ask for documentation as well about your disability and how it affects you. So our website also talks about that, our documentation standards, what we look for in the documentation. And we also have a document upload feature now available on our student portal as well. And so that'll be helpful too, so students can get their records to us, and we can evaluate that in the decision making for their accommodations. Once we've gathered this information, we do complete an intake interview as part of the interactive process to determine what classroom accommodations can be provided for the student. And then what is the responsibility of the student with a disability? So this is very important. A student has to self-identify to our office, not to any other office here at the college. I've had students say, well, I told the financial aid office, or I told admissions that I have a disability. That is not the process here at South Texas College. Usually those students will get referred to us. So just very important that you look for counseling and disability services when you get here to the college, so that way we can initiate this process. You self-identify, and then we begin the disability services process. You have to bring the documentation. We look for 3 years or less regarding the disability, how it affects the student, what accommodations were they getting in high school. We, in the interview, we talk about what was helpful, not helpful in the past, so we can determine how we can help the student. And the student has to request the accommodations every semester. And the reason for that is because, you know, classes change every semester. The student registers again for different courses every term. So we want to evaluate the accommodations, how they have been working, haven't been working, and how we can assist moving forward. What are the responsibilities of instructors here at the college? So the instructor and the student do have to discuss the accommodations in private. We suggest the student reach out to the instructor and coordinate like a private meeting during office hours, or when now, you know, the instructors have virtual office hours available, things like that. So that way they can discuss the logistics of providing the accommodation. The instructor will sign the accommodation memo and return it to our office saying, you know, they received it. That is our current process. And if the instructor disagrees to any of the accommodations, they have to reach out to our department or the counselor that issued out those accommodations, and we can discuss any questions on those accommodations on the memo. So the next question is, can an instructor change any accommodations as they see fit? So the answer is no. They shouldn't be changing the accommodations. The only individuals that can change accommodations are our staff here at the Student Disability Services Office. However, sometimes this does occur, so that is why we check in with our students throughout the semester, and we ask them to check in with us too. If they're not being provided their accommodation, we need to know about it, since they are the ones that are in the classroom and needing these accommodations. We ask they let us know, hey, it's not working for me, or it's not being provided, so we can advocate and intervene at that point. So the next slide talks about just some adaptive technology and software. We do purchase this technology software. If a student needs something, we will do our best to provide it, or a reasonable alternative accommodation. We do have a lot of technology software available here on campus. We do check out some of this technology to our students depending on the accommodation, and we purchase more as needed for our students. And so the next slide is just a summary of some of the technology. Again, we have adaptive equipment. We check out magnifiers to students with low vision. We check out calculators, color screens, furniture, adapted furniture as needed for the classrooms. And then we also have the assistive technology here in our computers in our lab. We have several labs. We do have a counselor at every campus, so their labs, they each have an area also that has this software that's needed or can be placed on those computers. We have tutoring that's for all students here at the college. However, some students with disabilities may qualify for extended time on the tutoring services. We have note takers, we have readers, scribes, we have sign language interpreters, now doing remote sign language interpreting for our deaf students. We have adaptive material, such as electronic books, large print, other material like that, and testing accommodations. That is one of our bigger accommodations, where we provide extended time, alternative test site, or administration, and supervised breaks. So that accommodation is also available. due to the COVID-19 situation, we're not currently doing testing here at our office. However, we will be opening it up by appointment where it's absolutely necessary in order for a student to get, some kind of proctoring, one of these accommodations. We will be making exceptions for those types of situations by appointment. So that's also in the works. And the last slide just gives you a snapshot of our website, the Counseling and Student Disability Services website. So that is where I was referencing earlier, where it says student portal login. That's where the student is gonna go into once they have their credentials for the college and their password. They will use the same login they use for everything else with the College for Business. They will use it on this portal to be able to request the initial student disability services. And then that button below that where it says questions, contact us, is a quick way to just send us your name, contact information, and we will reach out to you with any questions you have specific to our department. Somebody will from our department will reach out to you within 2 to 3 business days to follow up with any concerns, any supports you need from our department. And then again, the next slide is just how to reach us. We have our main disability email address, disability@southtexascollege.edu. We try to monitor that daily. So if you have any questions that come up after this presentation, feel free to send an email to that email address. Again, the questions and contact us button on our main Counseling and Disability website is available. It's another option for us to reach out to you. And then that is my contact information. Again, I'm the coordinator for Student Disability Services, and we do have 10 counselors that currently service students with disabilities, and also for temporary accommodations under Title IX, pregnant and parenting services, and they also provide mental health services, individual mental health counseling. That's also available to our students. That is my direct phone number and my email, and that is my location. I am at the Pecan campus. We are open only for virtual services currently. And like I said, the appointments in person are very limited, and just to try to, stop the spread of the virus, things like that, we do require the mouth cover to come into any of our campuses currently for any of our visitors, including our employees. Everyone here is required for that as well, just to mitigate what we can. So let me see what else. That's pretty much it. That's all I have for you all today. I know it's brief, but if you have any questions, I'm available, like I said, and I'll pause there.
Thank you, Pedla. So I want to reiterate how important it is for students to self-advocate, right? They have to go to your office and disclose that they have a disability and that they're seeking services. We
Yes.
have someone asking what type of documents a student is required to submit to request accommodations.
Yes, so that's a really good question. So pretty much any documentation that states what is the disability, like a diagnosis on there, how does it affect you? What accommodations were you getting in high school or at another higher education institution? We look at that. It has to be from a licensed professional in that area of disability, the person that's giving you the diagnosis, right? So for the high school records, we're looking at like a school psychologist, an educational diagnostician that has, established some kind of diagnosis for a student, and then also prescribe some accommodations that were helping the student during high school. So they have to be individualized. It can't be like just a check off a long list of everything they think the student's going to need. It has to be things they've actually been using and demonstrated the need for, so that way we can tie it back to their functional limitations in an educational setting, right? So we do individualized assessments. We look at the documentation to see if we're able to provide accommodations permanent accommodations, or sometimes we're able to justify temporary accommodations depending on the documentation. And if we're missing any information, sometimes we do ask the student to sign off a release of information, and we will contact the provider of the documentation for any follow-up questions.
Okay, thank you. Someone else is asking if you also take care of the West Local campus. So I know you mentioned at the beginning you have a couple different campuses, right?
Yes, we have 5 physical campuses. We have the Nursing Allied Health Campus, the West Lago Campus, the Technology Campus, the Pecan Campus, and the Starr County Campus. So it's our five physical campuses, and then we also have the online college. And then we also are gaining a new recently the Regional Center for Public Safety Excellence in FAR. So that's fixing to become a campus soon. I don't know the timeline on that, but yes, we do have counselors at every of the 5 campuses that I named. And the West Echo campus in particular has 2 counselors servicing students there. So you're able to initiate the services either here, and then I will make sure that your services are at your nearest campus. You can let me know what your preference is. We typically try to go by student preference, just because they're the ones that are going to have to travel. When we do initiate more in-person appointments, they will travel to see the counselor or to take an exam, things like that. So we try to give preference to the student where they want to be serviced. But I know a lot of our ISDs that are closer to the West Local campus, we try to, facilitate that at that campus if possible.
Great, and I just posted the link to the where you can find the materials for this event with the contact information that was mentioned.
Great, and I know we also provided a Student Disability Services description page so that you all can reference on the process on how to get our services should you need any more detail.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Perla. And if any of y'all have any more questions throughout this presentation, please type in any questions for Perla in the chat box, and she'll be able to answer those throughout the presentation. So next we have Ms. Nancy Aguirre, Counseling Specialist from the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley Student Accessibility Services. Welcome, Nancy.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. As she mentioned, my name is Nancy. I am the counseling specialist in the Edinburgh campus. We also have a Brownsville campus, and our office is also there. And we have a counseling specialist there as well. I'll go ahead and start. Okay, thank you. So, our services and our process may seem a little bit similar to SDC, but there's certain things that might be a little bit different. Of course, type in any questions that you have, and I will go through our application process. So first thing is that we serve about 450 students during the fall and spring semester. So it's 450 each semester. And some students don't all register. A lot of students with disabilities maybe have learned how to cope with their disability and may not need services. Each person is unique with or without a disability, and all students learn differently. And so there's no expectation that a student has to register with our services, but we definitely encourage it to make sure that the student has the support they need if they do find themselves in a difficult situation in terms of their courses. Could you go to the next slide? Thank you. Our legal foundation is, of course, the Americans with Disabilities Act, our 504 Rehabilitation Act, to prohibit discrimination against students and employees with disabilities. Colleges are not required to fundamentally alter the nature of their academic programs, and disability rights are civil rights. And what we mean about the colleges are not required to fundamentally alter the nature of their academic programs basically means that an accommodation should not impact the intent of the program. And so, for example, let's just say a student goes into a teaching degree and states that they are not able to present they are not able to work in groups, things like that could possibly be a fundamental alteration of the program, because as we all know, teaching requires students to teach others, right? To stand up and present and be able to convey their lesson plans to their students. And so that may be a fundamental alteration, but that is assessed on case-by-case basis. Could you go to the next slide? Thank you. So when do these laws apply? When do these accommodations take place? Academic settings, of course, our classrooms, our labs, our clinicals, university-sponsored events as well, which are non-academic settings, our athletic events, our residence halls, our dining halls. If students are seeking to live in our dorms, they can request housing accommodations, and we'll assess those as well. These laws also apply in field placements, clerkships, internships, and in the virtual world, where this is where a lot of our services, our work has moved to. So we also provide services for the virtual world, online classes, and all of that. The video, which I won't play, is if you would like to watch it later, is basically showing a resident student in the school of medicine at US Davis School of Medicine, who is receiving captions during an operating room. And so it's just a little bit of inclusiveness, just to view kind of the accommodations. Accommodations sometimes require some creativity to ensure that everybody's receiving the services they need and being included in the services that are being provided. If you can go to the next slide. Thank you. So types of disabilities that we provide accommodations for, as you can see, is learning disabilities, math, reading, dyslexia, written expression, speech language disabilities, vision impairments, deafness, hearing impairments, orthopedic mobility, could be spina bifida, those types of disabilities, mental health, which is PTSD, depression, bipolar, anxiety, anything that would land under that, autism spectrum disorder, traumatic brain injuries, and other health impairments such as diabetes, seizure disorder, ADHD. Basically, a diagnosis that has an impact in the student's ability to perform their academic requirements would be something that we provide services for. I use the example of an overactive bladder. If a student has an overactive bladder, how would that impact them in the in-class environment? It can impact them by missing notes, information during the class session. It could even impact them losing some testing time because they frequently had to get up to go to the restroom. So that's the way that we look at disabilities and their functional limitations. If you could go to the next slide, thank you. We also provide temporary disabilities, which broken limbs, burns, post-surgery recovery, and similar conditions that temporarily impair or influence a student's ability to participate in academic activities. Almost every semester, I have a few students that unfortunately have a broken arm, a broken leg, broken ankle. It could be athletic related. It happens with our athletes. So during this time, we may need to allow the student to be tardy on occasion to class. We may need to allow the student to have an extension on a certain assignment for whatever reason, if they were about to go into surgery. And so we assess those requests on a case-by-case basis. So how does disability affect students? Students may take longer to process information. They may have difficulty relating to others, but they may have a difficult time focusing. Attendance may be an issue depending on their functional limitations, ability to express thoughts in writing, ability to complete physical class activities. So during the intake process, which is similar to STC, we discuss with our students what are their functional limitations, we review their documentation because we want to ensure that the student is also able to express what their difficulties are. We want to be able to, our students do need to take ownership of what they feel they may need in college, because at the same time, they are the ones that need to use these accommodations. They are the ones that need to feel comfortable using these accommodations. And so, could you go to the next slide? Thank you. And so we also provide services for our students who are under Title IX pregnancy-related, and parenting accommodations. And so this would be a student who may be pregnant, going through a pregnancy-related condition, or a new parent. This can also be an adoption. So the student would need to request services through our office. Also, we would require documentation to know how long they needed to be out and what were their exact requests related to their program. Maybe it's rescheduling some assignments, maybe it's some time off to care for the child, to care for themselves. And so all these requests would go through our process, through our office as well. And these are our links for, the first link is our website link for our office. And then the second one is the direct link to the pregnancy and parenting request form. Documentation requirements, including expected due date. That's for the medical side, for the student who is requesting a leave of absence because they are giving birth to the child. So eligibility for services, students must register with SAS. Part of the process is that they do need to apply for services. They need to submit an application. This application will ask some basic information. Have they received accommodations before? What is their diagnosis? The students need to be able to answer these questions. Some students may not know their disability, so it's something that they may want to review, the documentation that they submit, so they are able to answer some of these questions. There's questions related to what difficulties they have related to their disability, and so those are some of the information that we will be requesting. We do want the students to submit current documentation from a qualified professional. Additional documentation may be requested, and this is really related to any requests that they might have. And so, like, if a student is requesting extra time on assignments, we want the documentation to show us why is this being requested? What is the functional limitation that would impact the student's ability to submit assignments on time? Something to keep in mind in the higher education environment, students are provided with a syllabi detailing what would occur during the semester and when assignments are due. Typically, assignments are not assigned one day and then due the next day. They are assigned maybe at the beginning of the semester and then due throughout the semester. And so sometimes it's time management. This may differ from the high school setting, where assignments are maybe due on maybe assigned on 1 week and due the following week. So there's those things that we discuss with our student during the intake process, which is the next one. They participate in an interactive interview with a counselor. I'm sorry, could you go back to the previous slide? Thank you. And then accommodations are determined on a case-by-case basis. One student with ADHD may not necessarily get the same accommodations as another student with ADHD, because this is based on the student's needs, on their documentation, on the severity of their condition. And so we want to ensure that we do take the time to meet with each student and assess their needs and review their information that they submitted to us. The next slide, please. Thank you. Documentation required for eligibility. It should include an evaluation by a qualified professional that makes evident the disability and the current impact of the disability. So this is what you probably will be hearing frequently: functional limitations. We want to know in what way does this disability functionally limit the student. And so as a student, we want to think of what are the activities that is required by a student. So reading, focus, writing, being able to organize thoughts, organize paperwork and things like that. And so if the student is limited in any of those aspects, it's important to bring that up during the intake process so we can move forward to assess what accommodations are appropriate. The next one, please. So these are some examples of accommodations. Priority registration. Students registered with our office are allowed to register earlier for their classes. This gives the students the decision to maybe take a little bit later classes. I have students with insomnia that really cannot take early morning classes. They won't be able to get up. The impact of not being able to rest all night is something that affects them. And so they do better in the evening or in the afternoon. And so students are able to make those decisions on their own. And so that allows them a little bit of more flexibility. Priority seating, a student who maybe is hard of hearing may sit in the front row. Our students with distraction reduced testing, they are not able to focus on the regular classroom environment testing. There's too many people, there's too many things going on. We do have our own testing center. Extended time on testing. This is also determined during our interactive process. Our sign language and captioning services, of course, for our hard of hearing and our deaf students. Alternate format of course materials. This can include an audiobook. This can include Braille, e-books and things like that. So of course also assessed and related to the student's disability. And then a volunteer note taker in the classroom. We also do provide audio recorders for students who are approved to have an audio recorder in class so the students can, re-listen to these lectures and be able to have some independence as well, so they don't have to rely on a volunteer note taker. The link below, the utrgb.edu SAS glossary, has some examples of our accommodations, a lot more than this, and also goes into detail what they mean and how they would apply. If you'd like to go to the next one. Thank you. Accommodation letters. So accommodation letters must be kept confidential by instructors. No information will appear on transcripts related to a student's disability. A student's disability will not be included in the accommodation letter. So basically the accommodation letter will include the student's name, the class that they're requesting services for, and the accommodations that were approved through our office. The accommodations will have a little description of what they mean and how they can be applied. And so it's a student's responsibility to also communicate with the professors to ensure that these accommodations are being requested. An accommodation letter is like saying, I can request this, but it may not necessarily, the professor would still need to know that you're requesting, let's just say, extra time on testing. So the professor would need to go in there and change the time for, let's just say, online quizzes or exams. And so, but the professor is notified via email, and so is the student as soon as the student requests these accommodations. That process is described in more in depth once a student is registered and approved for accommodations. We invite the student to come back for what we call a welcome meeting, where we discuss those services, how they get their alternate format, how they get their equipment, how they request for testing. So we go through all of that with the student as well in an additional meeting. So accommodations are to provide students equal access to the information and educational experiences as their peers, provide the same opportunities to demonstrate mastery. And so the accommodations are not meant to give the students an advantage. The accommodations are meant to give the students the equal access to these services, to the information that they otherwise don't have because of the impact of their disability. So accommodations, as I mentioned before, should not fundamentally alter the essential objectives of an academic program, curriculum, or course, or lower the standards. They do not ensure academic success or otherwise provide an advantage. And so by this, what we mean that we cannot ensure that the student will succeed because of the accommodations, but what we do attempt to ensure is that the student has access to succeed. So we want to make sure that they have the access to succeed, but at the end, it is up to them to utilize those accommodations to help them succeed in their academic journey. Confidentiality, all student information, including documentation that is submitted to our office, is kept confidential and secure according to the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act FERPA guidelines. And so, in K through 12, students' information is shared with their parents and with them. In the higher education setting, the student needs to sign a release form for any office at the university to be able to communicate with their parents. And so this is something that if the student would like their parent involvement, they would need to fill out this form so we can have communication with them, or even registers if they want their parents to know their grades or financial aid. So this is an additional form that would need to be signed. If not, the student would be the only one that would be able to communicate on their behalf. So registering for services. So we have this new portal that we, for the past year. So the student can register at utrgv.edu MySAS. I do want to make it clear that the student needs to have been already provided a UTRGV credentials. If they have not applied to the university and do not have UTRGV credentials, they cannot log in for the application. So they can log in as soon as they have UTRGV credentials, which basically the email typically is first, last name, utrgv.edu. And so if the student has not received that or a student ID, they will need to wait until they receive that information. So accommodations are not retroactive. And so let's just say a freshman student begins their first semester in fall, and the student didn't register with our office until October. We cannot provide any services beyond that, before that date. So maybe the student didn't do so well in September, maybe they didn't do well in August. Basically all that has already occurred, and we could only provide services from the date that they are approved. And so it is important to register early on and start having the conversation as to if they want accommodations and what accommodations they will be requesting, so they can have accommodations from the first day of class. And then again, the interactive intake appointment, which I've described. And then students should register with SAS each semester if they wish to have accommodations. And that does not mean that the student needs to submit documentation again a second time, or that the student needs to go through the intake again. It means that the student needs to log in again through that online portal and initiate a request for their classes. And all that process is also discussed with the student when we talk to them during the welcome meeting and when they're accepted for services.
Thank you, Nancy. So we do have 3 questions here.
Yep.
The first one says, do you have any O&M, which we're thinking orientation and mobility services? And do you have someone to walk a student from class to class?
So we do not have any O&M services. Those are typically provided, or we get them connected with the VR services, vocational rehab services. We do not have the staff, and we are not required to provide these services. Those are considered personal services. Now, the student can have someone come on campus with them that they either have from VR or the family pay to have someone come over. That is acceptable. Typically, those things are called a personal care attendant. And so they would just need to notify us, especially if that person is attending class with them. That person cannot participate in the educational process, so they can answer questions for them, things like that. But we do try to support them the best that we can. If a student gets lost on campus and we get a phone call, we'll go out there and we'll try to help them and orient them. But this isn't a service that we can continue to provide, and we are also not trained to provide those types of orientation mobility services.
Okay, we have a question asking if students have to do the application and first and then request an appointment for accommodation? Order.
Yes, so if the student is seeking services, it would be at that link, the utrgv.edu/MySAS. Once the application comes through, we assess it on our side and we contact the student to request if they need more documentation or if they're ready for an intake. And so we'll go ahead and contact them once we've received that application.
Great. And are students able to request an accommodation, for example, receive extra time and only receive it for one class and not another, or does it apply to all their classes?
So that will depend. For example, if a student has a disability in math and they need extra time on math assignments, that may not apply to, let's just say, an English course. And so it's really going to be a case-by-case basis. But for the most part, it would apply for all the other courses. But like I said, for like specifically learning disorders in mathematics, it kind of restricts us to those math courses.
Someone is asking if you have student mentors that guide first year applicants around campus.
We do have what's called student accessibility mentors. And the students that are the mentors are our interns that we get from different majors on campus. And we assess that also on a case-by-case basis. If the student states that they have some need that they need, or that it's something that they want to be part of, we definitely take that into consideration. But it is a limited amount, and but that is a service that we could provide, maybe even temporary or maybe the following semester.
Okay. Someone is asking if you can provide examples of the type of support a student who has dyslexia can receive, or social supports for networking with peers.
Yes, again, it goes back to the functional limitations related to those disabilities. Dyslexia, maybe the student has had a past of audiobooks. This is something that's been beneficial to them. That may be something that could be provided. Maybe the student has needed more time on testing because of their inability to read more fluently. That can also be something that will be provided. But again, we'll have to assess it case by case. For the social supports and networking with peers, we do have a counseling center that is not similar to STC. STC, both their counselors do the disability and the counseling, the therapy. We have SAS, Student Accessibility Services, and then we also have a counseling center separate. And so there's some supports in terms of groups for counseling. Now, other social supports that work with peers, we do have some events in October to give out information on disabilities, and that's really campus-wide to give awareness about disabilities. But we don't have any specific social support groups that are directed to students with disabilities from our department.
Perfect. And the last question is, who would be the contact person for your department?
So it depends. So I am the counseling specialist, so I'll do the intakes at the student accessibility services in Edinburgh. But just the UTRGV email for our office is ability@utrgv.edu. But the contact information is also on our website. I can also provide my email in the chat box if that's all right. And so
Yeah,
I'll go
perfect.
ahead and type that in, and then I will also type in the UTRG. Let me see.
Thank
the
you,
ability.
Nancy. I'll hand it over to Jeanette for the next speaker.
Yes, and we really encourage students to register with our office, to register with UTRGV. We have great incentives happening for students who would like to register with services, with classes. We are all virtual right now. Our office is not open. We do have virtual hours, and it's also on our website. If you have any questions, you can just put in the Zoom link and somebody will be there to be able to help you out and direct you in getting services started. So hopefully we'll see you all soon, right?
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nancy. And here's some of the other contact information for UTRGV Student Accessibility Services. Our next and final presenter for this session is Ms. Genesis Lezama, Peer and Transition Services Coach from the Valley Association for Independent Living. Welcome, Genesis.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here and an honor as well. Thank you for inviting us to participate. I think this type of meetings are important so we can like network and collaborate, support each other. So yeah, you can go ahead. I've been working at Vela since October, so kind of new, but I've been liking this field of work. It's really nice. So the first slides, I'm just gonna go real quick over them. This is not like the main focus of these presentations, but I did just wanted to show everyone what Vela is about and what we do. So our mission statement, and basically we work with people with different type of disabilities, and we have different programs. So promoting independence and personal dignity through self-directed services for persons with disabilities. So self-directed, just it's consumer center. So you want to go to the next slide? Consumer control. So it's consumer control, community-based, cross-disability, non-residential, private, non-profit agents. Okay. You want to go to the next slide? We are an independent living center. So we have like the four, pillars. So information on referral, independent living skills, individual and systems advocacy, and peer counseling, which that's what my program does. You want to go to the next slide? So who qualifies? So anyone with disability, any age group, or we also work with caretakers, guardians, or local representatives. And also depending on the disability or age group, there's like different programs that we can help you. Okay. Next slide. So the programs and services that Vela has to offer, it's mobility management services, independent living core services, dev services, and CRP job placement, community living assistant and support services, which stands for class, technology resources, MS support group, independent living purchasing program, project housing, education, and advocate for rural Texans, or the HART program, the peer and advocacy leadership program, which is the PULSE, that was mine, the program that I do, and the IL virtual program. Next slide, please. So the contents at Vela, we have the executive director is Susan Nelson, the program director will be Lydia Fonseca, and me, the peer and transition service coach, Genesis Lezama. And so yeah, if you want more information, you can email us to those addresses. So the mobility manager basically meets with the individual, and she can teach her how to use public transportation, how to get vouchers, etc. Next slide. The independent living program, so help consumers have more control over their lives. Next slide. There's the STAP program. STAP allows for Texas residents with disabilities to obtain access to devices for telecommunication as voucher program. STAP provides financial assistance with the use of vouchers to pay for these devices. And I believe there's a waiting list, you applied, but if you have questions about that, you can email me, and then I can refer you to whoever is the expert on this program. Next slide. There's a deaf services. So we have many services like information and referral, communication access, peer counselor. Next slide. CRP program, it's placing people with disabilities in competitive employment. So there's several ways we help with this program. Next slide. The class program. So this one has who qualifies. So a person who has a disability or, well, a developmental disability before the age of 22. And disability may be due to the variety of conditions. And so participants must be receiving SSI or related Medicaid coverage. Next slide. At Demo Lab, the University of Texas Technology Access Project has provided Bell with modified laptops and that can help individuals with visual, speech, or mobility impairment, and hands-on demonstrations are provided on using the assistive and adaptive technology. Okay, next slide. The MS support group, so meet others living with multiple sclerosis. My coworker Mario runs this program. Next slide. Independent living purchasing program. If you qualify, Bell's new ILS outsourcing program can help pay for items that can facilitate your ability to live independently. To qualify, you must be present in Texas and have a significant disability. Okay, next slide. The Project Heart, my coworker George is in charge of this program, and assistant transition individual from institution back into the community with Coast Bend Center of Independent Living, and then basically help people move or like transition, also to find housing and things like that. Next slide. The IL virtual program, Gavi and Mario run this one. I don't have that much information about this, but if you email us, we can provide you with that information. Next slide. And then my program, Paul, Peer Advocacy and Leadership Program. It's a project, is an initiative by Texas State Independent Living Center and its partners to facilitate the training of at least 25 Texans with developmental disabilities to serve as peer support specialists for 250 individuals with developmental disabilities. So that's like our goal. In the context of this training program, the peer counselor will be someone who acknowledges having a disability and does counseling with another person with a disability. And then the requirements are having an ID, being a current resident of the state of Texas, being an adult 18 and over, being a registered voter or willing to register to vote. So I guess I'll talk a little bit more about the PAL program here before going to the next before the next slide. So I did this program. Well, this program is a 10-week. For 9 weeks, we cover topics like the basics of your counseling, money management, how to use public transportation, how to access the community resources. So topics like that that help them to become more independent, but also teaching them how to assess others, individuals with disabilities. We teach them how to respect others, their ideas, how to guide someone without like imposing their beliefs, how to listen. We did a lot of like activities involving active listening. So I guess empowering them and teaching them how to be a peer, a good peer. So it was 10 weeks. Actually, we just finished one cohort, the second year of 5 years. And then we will be having our PAL seminar tomorrow. So if you didn't receive an invitation from me, and if you're interested in listening to what our students have to say and what they've learned, email me, I'll send you an invitation. I can even attach the flyer here for anyone who wants to learn more what we did. in these 10 weeks. So yeah, and yeah, the goal is that they teach others to live as independent as they can. Next slide. And then the transition services. This is a pilot program at Donna ISD, or I did this from November, December, and December, and I think it was a little bit of January. And it was a 6-week program based on the curriculum provided by Teens in Transition. So TNT is a curriculum designed to prepare young adults ages 16 to 22 with high incidence disabilities to become employed, independent members of their communities. The curriculum activity engages students in a variety of topics, including post-secondary education, job training, soft skill development, mock interviews, housing, insurance, financial literacy, and accessing community resources. And so again, topics that we covered are communication and self-advocacy, career exploration, searching for jobs, applying for jobs and other opportunities, preparing a resume, preparing for interviews, mock interviews, being a good employee, banking, budgets, credit, job training and certification, post-secondary education, independent living simulation, housing, insurance, transportation, community resources, and participation. So the way that we did it on those 6 weeks is that I will go to the school and I will meet with the students and teachers from the special ed classes. And then depending on each class, it was different. For some kids, we would just watch videos and talk and play. For some other kids, we will do something, I guess, more like hands-on. We will do papers, activities on papers. We will do questions. We will also watch videos. But yeah. And for the older kids, I guess returning seniors, those who are already 18 and over, I was trying to focus more on career and like what career they wanted to do, if they wanted to go to get like a certificate or go to another school. And then we did a lot of mock interviews. So in the classes that I will talk about money and about employment, I will like ask them questions that employers usually ask when in an interview, so they can feel prepared with so they can be prepared to go look for a job. And yeah, and that's all I do right now. Any questions? Or if you want to go to the next slide. So our office locations, I'm in the McAllen office on our McCall, and then we also have one in Laredo. So those are the contacts.
Thank you, Genesis. We do have a question saying if this is something separate from Texas Workforce Solutions, or is there something you do together with Vocational Rehab Services?
So this is Vela's program, and it's funded by the TCDD. Yes.
Great. So they are separate programs.
Yes.
And then how does the student apply?
Okay. Yes. So for the Lydia's put it in the chat that the Laredo office changed, but a student can apply. For the donut services, I am not sure how was that process. So the transition services will be like a school. So the school will ask us to go and provide the services. And then it's like a process, and then we would just go throughout the time that they allow us. So we need to have an MOU with the district. That's what Lydia is saying. And then for the PAL program, so when the program starts, I will like spread the word and so they would just fill out an application and then fill in like their contact information, what type of accommodations do they need, and things like that. That's very basic.
Okay. Did the previous slide have your contact information for the different offices?
So for the Laredo office, it changed. So it's 709 Alta Vista Suite 102 Laredo, Texas.
Okay, which is the one Lydia just posted on the chat.
Yes. And then it says, Lydia, transition services at school. If school is interested to contact us and we can set up an agreement. And then Lydia, she posted her email, which is also in one of the previous slides from the presentation. So you can contact her so we can get into an agreement. And okay.
Perfect. Any other questions for Val? Seems to be it. Genesis, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So let me post once again the link for where you can find the materials. Everything that was presented here today, the PowerPoint slides are on our webpage. And I know someone just asked about can a student can avail to both agencies. Yes, all the different agencies that were presented here are individual agencies, and they provide services. So we all work together. All the presenters today are part of our transition coalition. So we all work together to collaborate and to create strategies to serve our community. So we all are focused on enhancing the transition to post-secondary education, to the workforce, and to the community. And those are the three core areas that we focused on today. So we hope that you were able to take back some valuable information from all these wonderful presenters. So here you will see our contact information for Janet and myself. So we are student HireAbility Navigators. Basically what that means is we work with Workforce Solutions, and we are convening and collaborating with our community, with school districts, with partners, employers, to provide and increase awareness about how to hire people with disabilities, how to be more inclusive, how to increase accessibility and inclusion in the Rio Grande Valley. So we are part of a large network here in the state of Texas. I know we have some navigators join us from other boards. So welcome. I know we have people from all over the state and from our service area. So thank you all for joining and being here with us today. Please feel free to use our contact information to reach us. We do have more events coming on, and you can use our email to stay connected. Our social media, our webpage, all things are posted and to the public.
Yes, you can also, as Ricky mentioned, we have our individual emails, or you can also email navigators@wfsolutions.org, which was posted on one of the slides at the very beginning of this presentation. And if you email that email address, we will both receive that email, whether it's more information on any of the presenters that presented today or anything related, we will definitely get back to you. So before you all log off, we would like your feedback. Ricky will be posting 2 links for a survey, one in English and one in Spanish. And it's a very short survey. Those who are able to submit their survey will also be entered into a drawing to possibly win some prizes, thanks to South Texas College. Thank you, Perla, for donating those prizes. But we do hope to receive as much feedback. That way in the future, we know what changes we can possibly do to another event such as this one.
Como Janet comentó, hay una link para la encuesta en español, también como una en inglés. Queremos saber su opinión de este evento. Gracias por acompañarnos y esperamos que, que les haya beneficiado la información que compartimos hoy. So we had our 5 presenters, right? We had Workforce Solutions, focusing on employment and getting people into the workforce. We had Texas Workforce Solutions Vocational Rehabilitation Services, talking about how they support individuals with disabilities to get and maintain employment. We had both universities and colleges from our local area, South Texas College. We had Perla, who talked about student disability services. We also had Ms. Nancy Aguirre from UTRGV talking about their accessibility services. And we ended with community services by Vela. We had Genesis. So thank you to these 5 speakers who joined us, or 6, because we had both Leanne and Gabby. 6 speakers who joined us today. If you have any further questions for them, they did provide their contact information in the PowerPoint, but you're always welcome to connect directly to us, and we can link you to them or any other services available in the community. That's what we're here for. We're your liaisons to connect you to the resources and services available. So thank you all for joining. This concludes our event. Have a great rest of your day, week, and hope you stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you for joining.